No problem. So I blame my producer.
No.
My name is Dave Ballard, and I'm a CosmoQuest and WSH executive producer. I often mod under the handle RInstro, and I'm here flying solo for you the first time on the live stream. We're covering the launch of the Ariane 5, which will be launching 2 communication satellites today from French Guiana. And I guess we're going to get things started here. Do we have the launch stream? Is it ready yet?
We have the launch stream. It is currently just a test signal.
Just a test signal. So in the meantime, maybe we can come up with launch card bingo, as we often do on the live streams here.
So I need a link and I will bring it up.
I've got bingobaker.com. Let me drop that where it needs to go. Actually, Annie has it in there already.
Okay, so I think only one person can create the bingo at once.
Okay, I've got it open right now if we want to take suggestions for entries into the bingo card. If you're on Twitch right now, you can @CosmoQuest. If you're on the Discord, you can put them either in the Daily Space Q&A channel, or in you can direct message me at RInstro. As far as the launch today goes, we're still several minutes away from the window opening. Let me pull up my information here. I can tell you exactly when that's going to happen. The liftoff is set for 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. French Guiana time, 2:30 p.m. where we are here in the Central Time Zone. I need to mute my phone because suddenly I can hear it. And once again, if you have any questions, by all means, @CosmoQuest, and we'll try and answer those as best we can. My specialty is satellite communications. I have an avid interest in spaceflight and spacecraft construction and things like that. Passing knowledge of astronomy and cosmology and a few other things, just because I sometimes have extra time on my hands and don't mind reading scientific papers. If we have detailed questions, my producer here is none other than Dr. Pamela Starstrider herself. So we can always forward questions that way if we need to. And kind of excited because the company I work for is one of the companies that's launching a satellite today. It's a good time for me to mention that even though I am an employee of Intelsat in my real life, they are not sponsoring me to be here, nor am I an authorized spokesperson for them. So it should be understood that anything I say here is my own personal opinion and not the authorized spokespersonage of the company. The words that I use are my own and not theirs. So hopefully that's clear enough.
So we have requests for nominal liftoff.
All right, so added.
So Binary Blaze says that she's generating one too. So we have LOX and LH2 are also getting requested.
Okay.
loving that the video coverage for this comes out in multiple languages that we get to pick from.
I've put in the Vulcan 2 upper stage as a potential block. That's not something we hear all the time. I love DPI's comment in the Discord. Yeah. That's great. Adding some rocket science to the rock science.
Yes, yes.
While we're waiting, if you're not playing Launch Bingo, you can always be mapping more rocks. We definitely need help finishing up, getting these last 1,000 or so images marked up. We're more than about 3/4 of the way there. And the sooner we can get these things done, the happier the OSIRIS-REx mission will be with us. They're excited for the science that we've already gotten done. They're pretty much waiting on pins and needles for us to get the rest of these boulders and rocks and boulders and gravel and so forth put together so that they can figure out a spot for that spacecraft to make a touchdown landing and try and pick up a sample to bring back to Earth. So by all means, continue the great work that we're doing there.
And if anyone has any requests for how we have the image set up, I am really enjoying getting to focus on production while someone else does the hosting.
So we definitely do need some more entries for our bingo card. So any entries that you want to put in there. So far we have liftoff, we have hold, we have LOX/liquid oxidizer, we have nominal, we have hydrazine, we have LH2/liquid hydrogen.
Ooh, we are 117 some odd seconds from going live.
So less than 2 minutes from going live on the live feed.
Annie already has her bingo card done.
Oh, well, let's use hers then. The two satellites that are going to be launched today are the Intelsat 39 communication satellite. This is a high-capacity communication satellite destined for geosynchronous orbit, designed for use by both commercial, government, and military contracts. They're available for pretty much anybody who wants to get space on a satellite. It's useful for broadband, for point-to-point communications. Basically, it's the latest in our set of satellites, and by our I mean Intelsat's fleet. The other satellite that's going up is the EDRS-C. This is a partnership between the European Space Agency and Airbus, which is a public corporation. They make aircraft, competitor to Boeing. And it looks like we have a live feed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to French Guiana for the 105th flight of an Ariane 5, the third Ariane 5 of 2019. Today, our launcher will be launching an American satellite, Intelsat 39, and a European satellite, EDRS-C. Thank you for being with us here. I'm glad to be here. H0 is at 4:30 p.m. in Guyana, 3:30 in Washington, and 9:30 p.m. in Toulouse and Washington. These are the 608th and 609th satellites launched by Ariane Space. And I'm speaking to you from the terrace at the Jupiter Center. The launch zone is straight ahead of me, 14 kilometers from where I am. This is our heaviest launcher, and from our position of 5.3 degrees north, we benefit from the so-called slingshot effect. So we're going to have a look at the launcher here. It measures 51.3 meters high, 775.3 tons of mass at liftoff, and the performance of this launch will be 10,671 kilos with a thrust at liftoff of 13,000 newtons. We're going to go under the fairing to look at our two passengers. In the upper berth, the first that will be separated is Intelsat 39 with a mass of 6,600 kilos. And in the lower position, EDRS-C with a mass of 3,186 kilos. You can choose between the French version or English version for our listeners. And we're going to go inside to join my colleague Joshua Jampol. Joshua is going to be commenting in English. There are helicopters that are flying over my head here. He's 2 stories below me in the fishbowl, and he will speak to you in English. Josh, over to you.
Pierre, of course. Greetings to everybody. We are coming to you live, as always, from inside the Jupiter Mission Control Building here. It's the heart of the action, the center of the nerve center of the space base. Like an airport control tower, really. The room is in 2 parts. On this side, we're with our invited guests and our customers, seating about, 250. If you look behind us, through the glass down into what they call the fishbowl, you can see the operational teams. Today, 50, 60 people, depending on the mission, working there. If you look farther back, all the way to the wall, you can see on the screens a lot of information coming in. I know it's hard to read all of it, but we'll get to it, try and explain some of it. The space base here covers a lot of ground, 700 square kilometers, about the size of Singapore, and all the outposts are sending their information here into the space base. So Jupiter, well deserving of its name as the nerve center. Now, we are very happy to have with us Ariane Space Vice President for Missions, Operations and Purchasing, Luce Fabriguet. I've got a date with her over here, so come on, you can meet her. Hello, Luce.
Hello, Josh.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
All right, we won't keep you too long, just a couple of questions. Flight 249 tonight is the 7th launch of the year for Ariane Space. What makes it special?
Our customers make it very special today. We are going to launch for Intelsat and Airbus, 2 long-standing customers for Ariane Space. So let me first welcome them here at Jupiter Center, and all our guests here at Jupiter, and all of you watching the live stream.
Now, you mentioned long-standing, faithful customers. How far back does the partnership go?
For decades, with Intelsat, we have launched the first satellite for them in 1983. And today we are going to launch Intelsat 39. And Intelsat 39 will replace Intelsat 902 that was launched from here 18 years ago in August 2001. Mm-hmm. Regarding EDRS, we are going to launch for our customer Airbus, and with Airbus we have launched more than 130 satellites already, and EDRS is a very important mission for us. It's a key mission for us to guarantee the European access to space, and today EDRS will contribute to the space data highway, and this is an important highway, new highway, to accelerate the transfer of data from a low Earth orbit satellite to the ground, to all of us.
Very good. Okay. Can you describe the mission a bit further? Give us maybe some facts and figures, some numbers people can remember.
So today we target to launch at 4:30 p.m. The launch vehicle we head towards the east. It will fly over the ocean Atlantic, then over Africa, and we will separate the first satellite, the large one, after 29 minutes of launch. And then we will separate the second one, EDRS-C, around 4 minutes later.
The satellites are going into geostationary transfer orbit, right? What
Right.
exactly is that?
It's very efficient orbit to reach the geostationary arc. We will separate both of them on this elliptic orbit. It's an elliptic orbit with a perigee at 250 kilometers, apogee at the altitude of the geostationary arc, close to 36,000 kilometers, and we will inject them with a huge speed, close to 9 kilometers per second.
Okay, very good. I know you want to go to work. You're going to work right in here. Just stay with us 30 seconds because I need you. You're going right in there, which is what we call the Ariane Space Flight Desk. We're going to see some shots of the colleagues that you're going to be sitting with, Roland Lagier and others. What's the role of the flight desk?
So here we are connected with all the teams here in Jupiter and also in the control centers. We fully rely on these teams, and we have the final say on the decision to launch.
Okay, final say. Luce Fabricate, you better get back to work. Thank you so much. We'll be back with Luce at the end of the broadcast. For now, thousands of people from across Europe are working on Europe's space effort. For more on that, we go back outside to Pierre.
Yes, the CVA, the Community of Ariane Cities, has 15 cities: Augsburg, Bordeaux, Bremen, Cannes, Charleroi, Courleferrand, Évry, Courcouronnes, Lampol-Sosen, Kourou, Les Mureaux, Liège, Mulhouse, Séville, Toulouse, and Vernon. And this community also includes 3 space agencies and 18 industrial sites. They play, their main role is to inform the citizens of Europe about the European space programs, about technological advances, and the economic and technological repercussions. And they also have to prepare the future. They organize seminars in summer schools, and they try to incite young people to follow in the footsteps of Thomas Pesquet and to take up the torch, follow in the steps of their elders, and work we're going to see a film now about Vernon.
Ce soir, nous sommes réunis pour le 3e lancement Ariane de cette année, avec un lanceur qui va porter haut les couleurs de notre ville de Vernon. Vernon s'investit dans la communauté des villes Ariane avec un support très actif de conseillers municipaux passionnés d'espace et de son histoire. Ce symbole de la ville, ainsi emporté vers l'espace, rappelle l'attachement historique de Vernon à son activité spatiale. 75 ans de présence et d'histoire sur le plateau de l'espace, 40 ans de vol Ariane depuis 1979. C'est pour cela que l'établissement Ariane Group de Vernon s'engage aux côtés de la municipalité et des établissements d'enseignement dans des actions visant la découverte de nos produits et de nos métiers.
Aujourd'hui, avec l'ensemble des Vernonnais et la communauté des villes Ariane, nous sommes heureux de parrainer ce vol d'Ariane 5 en apposant le blason de la ville de Vernon sur la coiffe de la fusée. Véronique, Vesta, Vulcain, Vinci, le V de Vernon a toujours été associé à l'aventure spatiale. Et depuis quelques années, avec Sébastien Lecornu, ce site a été transformé en véritable campus de l'espace, avec bon nombre de grandes entreprises. Aujourd'hui, avec tous les Vernonnais, nous sommes très fiers de nous envoler avec Ariane 5.
Vernon a une grande tradition industrielle, notamment avec la filière aéronautique et aérospatiale. Cette tradition, on va continuer de l'affirmer dans les années qui viennent, avec bien sûr le début du programme Ariane 6, avec les recherches sur le programme Prometheus qui va inventer une nouvelle génération de lanceurs, avec bien sûr la montée en puissance et en charge du campus de l'espace, avec l'ensemble de ces formations, de ces également sous-traitants, de cette filière qui s'organise autour du campus technologique. Cette tradition industrielle, cette histoire industrielle, non seulement on la célèbre avec ce parrainage de ce lanceur Ariane 5, mais on va également continuer de la réaffirmer dans les années qui viennent, puisque le V de Vernon reste fondamentalement attaché à l'histoire aéronautique et aérospatiale.
Eh bien, And Vernon is sponsoring this flight. You can see their coat of arms up on the fairing, exactly as it was on the first Ariane 1 40 years ago. As I told you, the community of Ariane cities is there to sensitize all citizens, and particularly young people. You have to prepare the future of spacefaring Europe, because that industry requires highly technical professions. Here, as you can see, the weather is fantastic. I'm outside in the fresh air, out on the terrace, and in a few minutes the viewers will go out onto the terrace to view the launch with their own eyes.
Just want to clarify that the rocket that you're seeing there in that image is not the rocket that we'll be launching. That is a slightly smaller scale model that sits outside their launch complex. That's not the actual rocket.
Air-conditioned Jupiter mission control. Countdown proceeding normally less than 9 minutes to go till the liftoff. Countdown, of course, not simply a 3, 2, 1, push a button, blast off. You know, it's more complicated than that. As a matter of fact, the professionals here say countdown is the most intense part of the entire launch campaign, which lasts, you might remember, 5 to 6 weeks. And this is especially true here in Jupiter with the constant flow of information coming in. Some more of the key players: the Ariane Space Program Director, Véronique Loisel, there for the 2 satellites. The customers alongside her, you'll see them in a minute, the satellite mission directors for the 2 passengers. Every Ariane Space customer has one point of contact, and only one, the program director, from contract signing all the way through to after the end of the mission, a one-stop shop, making things very convenient for them. Here in Jupiter, you can see all the operational teams, but in fact, to launch Ariane or Soyuz or Vega effectively and safely, we need a lot of help from security people. We need help from the Army and the Navy. We need firefighters and a lot of other professions, the same as in any other business. Some of these people arrive early. The first operation.
So I have a question from Journey Started. He asks, he or she asks, with all that history, why are they not using recycled first stations like SpaceX? The reason is because it's not easy. You have to understand that where we are now in rocketry is not something that's occurred in a vacuum, and there's a whole history behind it. And initially, the very first rockets were artillery. They weren't meant to be reusable. You don't want to send ammunition downrange only to have it come back at you. So rockets were never really intended to be reused. Spaceflight has always been a thing that was theoretically possible, but the application was always one of military use up until the time of things like the Apollo and the Sputnik and sending the Lunokhod and so forth to the moon. And then trying to repurpose what amounts to high-end artillery for spaceflight and having people come back to Earth in one piece and survive the trip in the process is a whole new addition to it. So we're getting here to human spaceflight in a way that's not necessarily conducive to human spaceflight, if that makes any sense. This is one reason why the SpaceX Starhopper is such a big deal. It's being designed to fly humans to space. It's got things on it that are missing from some of these other old artillery rockets, basically. And it's got things that those rockets never would have even thought of having. It's one reason why they've had to go through so many different iterations of testing. It's why the Falcon 1 was such a big deal when they were able to finally get it to fly. It's a long story, but the short end of it is, if you want a reusable rocket, you got to design it from the beginning to be reusable. And that's one of the reasons why what SpaceX is doing is so groundbreaking. It's not that it's never been possible. It's just that theoretically, why would you? So that's basically what the reason that most companies don't do that, because it's simply easier and more efficient from a cost perspective to throw it away, because otherwise you're just adding weight and you're adding fuel and adding complexity.
Après les remplissages satellites, il a rejoint le bâtiment d'assemblage final et a été hissé sur le lanceur. Nous avons ensuite finalisé la configuration du lanceur en intégrant l'ensemble Intelsat 39, Silda et Coif sur Ariane.
Les équipes d'Ariane Group, d'Ariane Espace et les industriels sol, représentant environ 300 personnes, ont ensuite travaillé intensément pour amener le lanceur et le sol en configuration de lancement. Vendredi dernier, la revue d'aptitude au lancement, après avoir vérifié l'état de préparation du lanceur et des installations sol, nous a autorisé à transférer le lanceur sur son pas de tir.
La campagne s'est déroulée dans un esprit toujours constructif et j'en remercie toutes les équipes.
Coming to you now from the broadcast booth for the 7th launch of the year for Ariane Space, the 3rd Ariane 5 of 2019. Some 1,700 people are working around the space base in all for a launch of Ariane. Our cameras are here in Jupiter, but many others, you can imagine, are hard at work in many other sites across the range. We're going to show you one now.
So,
another one
Beerbong
later
12.
on. This place,
Not such a dumb question if you've just signed on. The payload are 2 communication satellites, one for the company Intelsat and the other for a partnership between the European Space Agency and Airbus. They're both headed for different slots in the geosynchronous belt. Intelsat 39 will be the first one, and EDRS-C will be the second one deployed on today's launch.
execution of the chronology. And he coordinates with Mission Control, that's us here in Jupiter, for final authorization to launch. And when all the conditions are right, and not before, he's the one who then okays the automatic sequence at the 7-minute mark, which we saw. In all, about 100 people up there working on going over the final checks and verifications on all parts of Ariane's launch systems. Final countdown, we mentioned, began 5:07 this morning. The onboard computers were turned on at 9:12 and the flight program was loaded. Split screen image here showing the propellant feeder arms in the middle of the launch vehicle. We're going to pull back, you'll get a better picture in just a second. Liquid hydrogen going in on the left, liquid oxygen on the right. What are they doing? They're putting propellant into the upper stage tanks. And you'll see these arms pull back at 7 seconds before ignition. They're hidden just behind the upper stage there, along, if you see ESA and Ariane on the back of the gantry, that's where they are. One of the last things you'll see before liftoff, we'd like to take just a minute to point it out. Under 2 minutes, the electrical power supply has been switched from the ground to onboard. That's one of the last things on the list. So little by little, Ariane 5 is becoming more autonomous and ready to go. And you can see here in Jupiter, the invited guests have begun to make their ways outside to watch the liftoff. Bright daylight today. We haven't seen a daylight launch.
So CosmoQuest asks, will you have a short moment of silence before you send the command to send one of our satellites to the graveyard orbit? And DPI asks if that would be IS-902. I don't sit with the satellite controllers when they do that. I think we all sort of do our own little for the satellites that we're no longer using. IS-902 has been in service for many years. It's been past its scheduled 13-year lifespan by a number of years now. So it's given plenty good service. And as soon as we've got 39 on and testing and have our customers taken care of as far as all the contracted obligations and so forth, then yeah, they'll end up sending 902 to a graveyard. I should point out, since I'm speaking now over the launch feed, once again, I am an employee of Intelsat, but I am not an authorized spokesperson. I have not been compensated by Intelsat to be here. So it should be understood that anything that I happen to say about it happens to be... Here's the countdown.
Top. Allumage du Vulcain. Allumage des EAP et décollage. sont normaux, la propulsion est nominale.
Nominal.
Faites la manœuvre en roulis. Les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
So yes, I, but not Intelsat necessarily, say that nominal is a
Lifting
good
off from
thing.
the ground here in French Guiana with a lot of fire and with 2 new satellites rising into the bright blue sky. Wonderful pictures, trailing.
Sketchy 441, I
exhaust
didn't
flames
see it,
of
but it's
gold.
possible
2
that you
boosters
did, yes.
providing 90, that's 90% of our thrust right now, propelling the launcher along her trajectory at an ever higher velocity.
La propulsion est nominale,
775
la
tons
trajectoire
at
est
liftoff,
nominale.
hard to believe.
Tous les
But to get
paramètres
that
bord
sort
sont
of mass
normaux.
off the ground, you need a lot of push. And push we have. Push you can see there. She's burning 5 tons of fuel every second. 2.5 tons are burning every second in each of the boosters. Plus the core stage, the middle stage, burning another 300 kilos of fuel every second. Ariane 5 is now following the program in the onboard computer, which gives all the orders, including stage separations. We're going to see those in just about 20 seconds. We're in the first of 4 flight phases as we pass to the animation. We'll be describing each in turn, so you can follow Ariane on her way east across the Atlantic. Right now, the first flight phase, as you can see on the animation, the single first stage engine and the 2 boosters are burning. The boosters burn just over 2 minutes.
La propulsion est nominale, la trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont normaux.
The DDO says everything
Séparation des EAP.
is perfect on board, and he's announced the separation of the boosters, and you can see that. That's the 2 points of light on the top, the flames of the 2 boosters flaming out. The single point of light below that is the lower stage, which continues to burn. Fine shots. We may even have shots of the fairing separation coming up in less than a minute. That'll make another 2 points of light in the bright blue sky. The single first stage engine is burning now. Taken over from the boosters. The boosters will
La
fall.
propulsion est nominale, la trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont normaux.
DDO says everything is nominal on board. The boosters fall 500 kilometers from shore into a protected area. Look on your screen on the bottom, our altitude 104 kilometers, on the right our speed 2.27 kilometers per second. The speed we need to inject the satellites roughly 8 or 9
Séparation de la
kilometers
coiffe.
per second as we've separated the fairing. There are actually 2 halves. There's another half on the starboard side of the vehicle, which is out of camera range. We can separate the fairing now because we're out of the dense layers of the atmosphere. Over 100 kilometers up, there's neither friction nor heating, which could disturb the passengers. We can also now discard any dead weight to maximize the launcher's performance, and the fairing weighs 2.5 tons.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont normaux.
So we can get rid of it now. So all is fine on board, coming up on 4 minutes after a liftoff of the 7th Ariane flight of the year. As we look at some of the Ariane space people, we're going to look at, we'll see Charlotte Besco in a minute and Didier Freve from CNES and ESA. The European space effort is a 3-way affair among Ariane Space, the European Space Agency, ESA, and CNES, the French Space Agency. You find them all here, along with the customers. Ariane Space in charge of operating the family of launchers and marketing the launch services and the Ariane program. ESA funding new programs. CNES overseeing coordination of all space-based operations. The Guiana Space Center is the world's only dedicated commercial space base where Ariane Space operates a launcher family. That's Ariane 5 soon to be Ariane 6, Soyuz, and Vega, soon to be the updated Vega-C. A series of films coming up for you now on the customers. Up first, a look at Intelsat 39.
Hello, I'm pleased to welcome this third Ariane 5 ECA launch of the year with on board 2 passengers. Intelsat 39 for the operator Intelsat and EDRS-C based on a public-private partnership between the European Space Agency and Airbus. Regarding in particular Intelsat 39 satellite, Arianespace is proud for having been selected by Intelsat to launch ICE-39, which will be the 61st Intelsat satellite launched by Arianespace. This high-power communications satellite, with a mass of 6.6 tons, was built by Maxar in Palo Alto and will replace Intelsat 902. It will be located exactly at 62 degrees east orbital position. I would like to thank all the teams that have been involved in this program. First, of course, our customer Intelsat, which always relied on Arianespace, with a dedicated, very efficient teamwork all along the program. Constructive approaches and optimizations have always been shared and preferred between the project teams. This was really a key driver to conduct a smooth and efficient launch campaign. I wish a long life to ICE-39.
We are in the second powered flight phase, the single-engine core stage burning now. You can see that on the animation. Another 2 minutes to go roughly until it shuts down. In just 2 seconds, we will be picked up by our first downrange tracking station. That's over the border in Brazil, a place called Natal. The station run by the Brazilian Defense Department for the CNES in an agreement with ESA. It will see lower stage burnout and separation. All of Ariane's trajectory has been designed to be followed from ground course. Continuing our look at the passengers tonight, a first look at our second satellite, EDRS-C.
Welcome all to the European Spaceport for VA249 launch. As the RInSpace Program Director for EDRS-C, I am in charge of the customer interface and launch services mission preparation. And I have here the pleasure to present the satellite which will be launched in lower position of this flight. In July 2015, Airbus Defence and Space selected a European launcher for the launch of EDRS satellites. EDRS-C will be the second space segment of the European Data Relay System. It will enable ultra-fast transfer of data from low Earth orbit satellites down to Earth. EDRS-C also hosts HILAS-3, a communications payload for Avanti with flexible capacity over Africa and the Middle East. EDRS-C is the second satellite based on OHB Small GEO platform, with the first one launched in 2017 by RInSpace. Over those 4 years, RInSpace and Airbus have built strong links of cooperation and coordination in the frame of the execution of the launch services contract. On behalf of RInSpace, I would like to sincerely thank our customer for their trust.
The Space Data Highway, you might have heard about it, a public-private partnership between ESA and Airbus.
So I just wanted to comment on the EDRS-C satellite. It's very interesting. When they talk about relaying data, they're talking about relaying data from low Earth orbiting satellites that orbit every 90 minutes or so, often in polar, sun-following, or other inclination orbits. And that means a lot of times the information that they are gathering, they can't immediately send back to their intended ground stations. So what they do instead is they use laser links from those lower altitude satellites up to geosynchronous altitude, and then the information gets beamed back to the ground stations as needed. So this is how you can have really close-up imagery from low Earth orbiting satellites and have it come down in near real time. It's a pretty cool system. It's the laser light system is fairly similar to what SpaceX's Starlink constellation is going to use to get signals from one satellite to another and then back to ground stations.
We're into the third and final powered flight phase. The single upper stage engine that will burn until plus 32 seconds.
Mint Skip says lasers so nobody can listen in, lol. Not really, but no, it turns out that the light from lasers being as coherent as it is makes it fairly directional, which means there's not a lot of bleed off, and so the information is very difficult to receive if it's not pointed directly at you. Generally, the higher the wavelength in the electromagnetic spectrum, the more focused the beam is. So it's difficult to listen in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us to watch the launch of Intelsat 39. Launching a new satellite is always an exciting time. It brings the promise of new opportunities to connect individuals, businesses, and communities using the latest advancements in satellite technology. It also reinforces the teamwork and technical innovation evident in our partnerships across the industry. Intelsat 39 will replace Intelsat 902 at 62 degrees east. This new satellite exemplifies the diversity of services that Intelsat's space-based platform and Intelsat 1 terrestrial network provides our customers around the world. Intelsat 39 is designed with both wide beam and high-powered steerable spot beams to meet the needs of broadband networking, video, and government customers across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. The steerable spot beams provide flexibility within the payload and enable our customers to efficiently respond as their requirements shift over time. The satellite will feature C and Ku band capabilities to provide additional scale to our Intelsat Flex managed services. It will enhance mobile connectivity for aeronautical, maritime, enterprise, and government customers operating across these geographies. Intelsat 39 is a powerful platform that will enable our customers to expand their high-speed networks at a lower cost of ownership. It will provide governments and mobile operators with the infrastructure they need to reach remote areas across the region, supporting our mission to narrow the digital divide. The government of Myanmar will use Intelsat 39 to enhance its network and the networks of other mobile operators and media companies. Affordable 3G, 4G broadband, and internet connectivity will extend throughout the country. None of these benefits would be possible without dedicated partners who share our commitment to building a more connected world. On behalf of Intelsat's employees, I would like to thank our manufacturer, Maxar, and our launcher, Ariane for their commitment to deliver a successful program for Intelsat. I'd also like to recognize the Intelsat team around the world for their work on Intelsat 39. Thanks to each of you for your technical expertise, dedication, and commitment to excellence. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. Finally, let me express my sincere appreciation to our customers for their continued trust in Intelsat. We value our partnership and look forward to advancing your strategic initiatives and continued growth. Now I'd like to wish us all a successful mission. Go Intelsat 39.
At the top of the broadcast, Luce Fabregat mentioning that Intelsat was an old friend. Our first mission with Intelsat back in 1983, that was on Flight 7, one of the promotional flights for the Ariane 1. And it weighed 1.8 tons. You compare that to 6.6 tons today. As of June, Ariane has launched 60 satellites for Intelsat and signed 58 launch contracts with the operator. Our last Intelsat launch was last September. That was Azerspace Intelsat 38. It was flight 243, weighed 3.5 tons. Also, the 100th Ariane 5 mission. And there's one more Intelsat remaining in the order book. It's coming up in 2020, next year. Another look now for more on Intelsat 39, and this time it's prime contractor Maxar.
Yeah, Pamela just noted that for a moment there, the telemetry track had a flashing X instead of a steady one that you can see now. Also, there's a bit of a gap there. 99% sure that that's loss of signal due to being out of range of one or the other of their comm stations on the Earth. Still not high enough up to be able to be seen from a large number of places. This is one of the reasons why satellites operate in geosynchronous orbit, is because you can see a very large swath of the Earth's surface. Space is not all that high up. I wouldn't want to climb a 100-kilometer ladder, but if you're in, for instance, Seattle, Washington, space is closer than the ocean is. So the way they stay up there is because they move really fast to one side. As you heard him say before, 8 or 9 kilometers per second is what you need in order to be falling toward the Earth, but still miss.
NASA had a station there till 1989 when they closed it. ESA, the European Space Agency, decided to build its own. This is the 65th Maxar satellite to be launched by Arianespace and the 57th based on their 1300 platform. Our last Ariane launch, June 20th, orbited a Maxar satellite. That was Intelsat 7C. And there are currently 4 more Maxar satellites in Arianespace's backlog for upcoming missions. Roughly 10 minutes to go in the upper stage burn. You may have heard that Europe is developing the successor to Ariane 5, Ariane 6. More market-driven vehicle to meet customer needs and market changes, including electrical propulsion. Ariane 6 will, they tell us, have shorter and more streamlined launch campaigns. There are 8 Ariane 6s already in the Arianespace backlog, first launch 2021. Another look at EDRS-C coming up for you now.
At Europe's spaceport in Kourou, the new EDRS-C satellite is undergoing final preparations before its launch. An Ariane 5 will lift the satellite into geostationary orbit, where it will join EDRS-A, which was launched in 2016 as a hosted payload on Intelsat 9B as part of the European Data Relay System. The European Data Relay System is a collaboration between ESA and Airbus Defence and Space, aiming to improve and accelerate data transmission from low Earth orbiting satellites to the ground. From their geostationary orbit, EDRS satellites can both see the low orbiting imaging satellite as well as the ground stations. Data from the imaging satellite is sent via a laser link to EDRS, which then transmits data via radio frequency to the ground stations. This process allows for longer and faster data transfers, creating the space data highway.
EDRS is called a space data highway because it's likened to an optical fiber in the sky. It's a highway through which data travels at enormous speeds. In the case of EDRS, at up to 1.8 gigabits per second. And if you compare this to a conventional internet connection at home, you can say that it's about 100 times the speed that you get with your internet connection when you surf at home. So that's a real highway for data in space.
The main features of EDRS are a high transfer rate achieved by the use of laser technology and a near-permanent availability, a result of the satellite's bird's-eye view from geostationary orbit. This results in a quasi-real-time availability of the data on the ground, a step forward from conventional systems that only allow data transfers for 10 out of every 90 minutes. EDRS is the first commercial system in the world to use optical communication between satellites. While the system has been jointly developed by ESA and Airbus, it is the latter who will operate the service.
The launch of today's EDRS-C satellite is a fantastic opportunity for enhancing our space data highway system. With Space Data Highway, Airbus is the first connectivity operator of laser communication services. Already today, Space Data Highway links all the 4 Copernicus satellites near real-time to the Earth, and it will allow, with the second satellite, to have near real-time data of 2 Earth observation satellites at the same time. A fantastic innovation. Also, it will be, of course, a backup of the first satellite in case we have a problem.
EDRS-C is the first dedicated EDRS satellite. It will provide additional capacity to the European Data Relay System, but also improve its robustness and further increase coverage. Once both nodes are fully operational, EDRS will be able to relay at least 50 terabytes of data every day. Today, ESA and Airbus are already working on a third node, EDRS-D, which will be positioned over the Asia-Pacific region and mark another step towards worldwide use of this breakthrough technology.
The ultimate goal will, of course, be to achieve global coverage so that we can transmit imagery that is taken anywhere in the world to Europe within quasi-real time, meaning almost immediately.
And there is a great future in using EDRS. With our new Pléiades NEO satellites, 30 centimeter resolution coming soon, from 2021 onwards, we will be providing you with more high-resolution, near real-time data for Earth observation applications, and I'm very proud of that.
With higher resolutions and better imaging techniques, the amount of data provided by low Earth orbiting satellites will only increase further in years to come. Therefore, both ESA and Airbus are convinced that optical communication in space is a key technology, allowing us to fully exploit these vast amounts of data. EDRS is the beginning of a new era in space-based telecommunications, and the launch of EDRS-C is another step towards the completion of the space data highway.
So EDRS adding lasers to space. Big improvement. That's the future. During the film, we were picked up by our next downrange station in Libreville, Gabon, on the west coast of Africa. It has been run by CNES for over 30 years and covered by an agreement between the European Space Agency and the Gabonese government. Tonight, a standard double launch to communication satellites, but throughout the long history of the Ariane family and Soyuz and Vega, Arianespace has launched for all types of missions and all types of orbits. On EDRS, a payload called Hylas-3, a short look now at its builder, Avanti. DDO continues to say that all is perfect on board, everything happening just the way it is planned to happen. Some numbers, right, some numbers. This is the 72nd launch of this version of the Ariane 5, the 312th mission performed by the Ariane family of launchers, and the 105th.
Quick note about a couple of the things that we have seen in the displays. Some of you may have noticed the telemetry track there right by the count up timer. You may notice that it dips a little bit in the middle there. It seems like it goes almost straight up and then it curves over and then it dips slightly. That's intentional. They try to make maximum use of the fuel that they have. So as they dip back toward the Earth slightly, they're getting the benefit not only of the thrust provided by the engines, but the pull of gravity as well. So they're basically doing as airliners sometimes do, or as airplanes sometimes do, trading altitude for speed. Once you're in space, speed is everything. Once you speed up, that allows you to get higher up in orbit. You reduce your speed and then you get lower down in orbit. So especially in launch, every little trick that you can do to get yourself a little further, a little more fuel efficiently, helps with how much payload that you can put up. The other thing was they mentioned EDRS-C in the writing. They didn't say it specifically, but in some of the text that they showed, said it was going to be at 31 degrees east. That's basically the line of longitude that it will be orbiting above. And because it's in geostationary, geosynchronous orbit, it will always be roughly above 31 degrees longitude. So you will always be able to look for it there in the sky.
EDRS will be the 26th satellite launched by Arianespace based on an OHB platform. Currently 7 OHB satellites in Arianespace's backlog, 4 more in the Galileo fleet, the H2SAT, the Heinrich Hertz communication satellite for Germany, and 2 MTG, Meteosat third generation satellites for the EUMETSAT weather group. During that film, we were picked up by our last downrange tracking station in Malindi, Kenya. It will see upper stage burnout and satellite separation. About 15 seconds left to go. until the extinction of the upper stage engine. I heard the DDO call out that milestone. We'll be out of the powered flight phases and into what they call the ballistics phase, or the coasting phase, or the free flight phase. You see the nozzle shutting down there? DDO will confirm cutoff of the upper stage engine occurring at about 670
Arrêt de
kilometers
l'ESC
altitude.
sur commande de guidage.
Our mass now down to 15.5 tons from 775. Ariane has reached her maximum speed, which you can see on the lower right, 9.3 kilometers per second. And you'll see her begin to slow down when she separates Intelsat 39 in about 3 minutes. Her speed will be 8.8 kilometers per second. When she releases the Silda, that's the carrying structure for the second passenger, at plus 31 minutes, she'll be flying at 8.59 kilometers per second. And when she separates EDRS-C at plus 33.31, plus 33.30, I think it should be, her speed will be down to 8.2 kilometers per second. With the power shut down, we're going to go to our next film and look at Intelsat's first maneuvers after separation. We'll be back with more.
Good evening. I'm Mohinder Guru, Senior Program Manager at Intelsat, and I'm pleased to be back in Kourou for my second launch campaign as the Spacecraft Mission Director within the space of 10 months, this time on Intelsat 39. After separation from the Ariane 5, our mission team at the Long Beach Control Center will take charge of the satellite and will start commanding. First deploying the solar arrays, followed by 4 apogee motor burns and deploying all appendages, and 7 days of electric orbit raising using xenon thrusters to position the satellite to its initial IoT longitude of 55.3 degrees east. After completion all bus testing and phase 1 of payload testing, Intelsat 39 will be maneuvered to its final operational longitude of 62 degrees east, where phase 2 of the payload testing will be performed, with the goal of entering Intelsat 39 into service by October 2019. I would like to sincerely thank everyone at Ariane Space, CSG, and Maxar Space Solutions involved in this endeavor. So go Intelsat 39.
We're a minute away from separation of Intelsat 39. There's a team there as we near confirmation of the DDO on separation of our upper passenger, due in about a minute. Intelsat, of course, going back a long way in the history of spaceflight, all the way back to Early Bird, if you recall, 1965, which was Intelsat 1, one of the world's first commercial communications satellites. So they've done this before. And yet it's always a moment of high concentration, no matter how much experience you have. The teams have gone through these procedures before many, many times, but it does call for tremendous focus. You don't want to use the word tense, but I guess focused, concentrated gives you an idea. All eyes on the computer screens, all ears on the phones, awaiting confirmation of our satellite separation, Intelsat 39. Roughly about 10 seconds. That's Intelsat 39. On the right of the screen, below that is the black bell-shaped structure, is the Silda. That's the carrying structure, holding the second satellite. There's the scheduled separation. We're waiting for the DDO's confirmation.
Séparation du satellite Intelsat 39.
And there we are, the first good news, as the men from Intelsat are nodding and pleased. You see they're holding, very politely holding their applause, because the mission, of course, is not over yet. We still have to separate our final passenger, EDRS-C. Intelsat 39 separated with a transversal spin. We promised you to show another place where people are hard at work tonight. Now we're going to go up there now. When choosing a space base, the Europeans wanted nearby hills where they could install radar and telemetry. And this is the CVI, called the Quick Look Telemetry Display Control Center. It's on a hill just behind us here in Jupiter. These teams have all the means for receiving and processing, storing and analyzing all the data coming in from the ground stations along Ariane's flight path. The downrange tracking stations follow the launcher, and right now these teams are following all the key flight data coming in by radar and telemetry to this post here. And they report the flight status, they report all that data on the launcher back to the teams here in Jupiter. And the announcements you hear made by the DDO come from the CVI. The information going to them first, and then relaying it here. Also to the flight desk, of course, and to the Launch Complex Operations Manager. All part of the great information flow from points across the space back to Jupiter. Coming up on SILDA separation. You'll see that. The SILDA will be pushed away from the mothership, just like the satellites were. And there you are. There's the scheduled separation of the SILDA.
Séparation du système de lancement double Ariane, le SILDA.
And the DDO has confirmed it. Intelsat 39 signal will be acquired. The first signal will be acquired by its station in Australia. Going to another film on the Superdata Highway.
Let me now introduce to you the head of EDRS infrastructure at Airbus, Mr. Matthias Wiegand. Good afternoon, Matthias. Matthias, could you explain what is the main mission of EDRS?
Our launching customer is the European Commission's Copernicus Earth Observation Program. The data relay service to the Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 satellites allows the delivery of large volumes of time-critical data to Earth monitoring centers within Europe in near real time. Before EDRS, a process that would typically take several hours. EDRS will be the second communication node, followed by a third satellite over the Asia-Pacific region by around 2024. Equipped with 3 laser terminals, EDRS-D will again significantly increase the communication capacity and its coverage.
Thank you, Matthias. Let me now introduce to you the EDRS project manager at ESA, Mr. Michael Whiting. Michael, since when has the EDRS service been available and how will EDRS-C contribute?
The commercial EDRS service has been available since November 2016 via EDRS-C's sister payload EDRS-A. By the end of 2019, the system will also provide a fully European broadband communication service to the Columbus module of the International Space Station. From 2021, the Pléiades Neo Earth observation satellites will begin to use the Space Data Highway.
Coming up in less than 30 seconds on separation of our final passenger, EDRS-C, as we look at the teams. Again, a moment of high concentration for them. They've gone through all these procedures before, just like the Intelsat people, but again, the waiting, same suspense, this time for the second passenger. Tonight, remember, we're representing years of work for many of these people.
Séparation du satellite EDRS-C.
Well, the final good news, as you can hear. The applause from the people here in Jupiter. Everybody happy. Ariane 5 delivered her second passenger, EDRS-C, out over the Indian Ocean. Handshake, smiles, cigars and champagne forthcoming. So from those very concentrated minutes, just moments ago, you can see the change here in Jupiter. Very buoyant, very happy. The hugs and the kisses all across the Space Center and at the points and posts where people are following the launcher and the satellite. Work will be just beginning there at the different ground stations for both Intelsat 39 and EDRS-C, and at the other sites around the world where the satellite's first maneuvers are being monitored. Congratulations all around. EDRS-C separated by a longitudinal spin different from the Intelsat 39, which was separated with transversal spin. Just wanted to note that. We're waiting, of course, now for the traditional post-separation speeches. The podium in Jupiter being set up for our speakers, who will include Luce Fabricant, Ariane Space, I believe John Harbour of Intelsat, Grant Gould from Maxar. We're going to go to a launch replay while we're reciting these names, you can relive those exciting moments half an hour ago as Ariane 5 took off from French Guiana here. Grant Gould from Maxar, we said. Richard Franklin of Airbus Defence and Space, who will also be speaking. As will Scott Richardson of Avanti Communication, and Guy Perez, that's Guy Perez, I apologize, of OHB. These shots from all the replay, from the replays at all the observation posts at the base, there are 6 or 7.
All right, so successful launch, nominal deployment of both satellites. So as far as we can tell, both missions are a complete success at this point. We're, of course, not going to hang around while they get into their final orbits. That'll take weeks. So we do like to eat and sleep occasionally. So that's nothing against our audience. We would gladly cover that if it's a long, boring process.
I'm going to interrupt. The guy in the left has a screen hanging off the end of the row like they forgot to give him a screen, and it's been bothering me the entire stream. Okay.
No problem. There are different kinds of thrusters, midship. The IS-39, if I understand correctly, if you're curious, obviously the internet is the place to look. But my understanding is it still uses hydrazine thrusters. Those are reliable. They've been used forever. We know how they work. The EDRS-C probably does have Hall effect thrusters as well as hydrazine thrusters. A lot of the satellites that use the new electric thrusters have hydrazine thrusters also as backup. Space is hard, so things do sometimes break, and it's always good to have redundant systems and so forth. It's the biggest thing is that it's not easy to go fix it if something breaks. Even the simple systems sometimes will break. We never have had really a space shuttle that can go up to the orbits of these satellites and fix them. It's just not a thing we can do yet. So having backups for backups for backups is a typical thing. So yeah, it's a successful mission to this point so far. Obviously, we'll keep you, it may not be obvious to any of our newcomers, space launches and space news are one of the things that we cover on the Daily Space, which runs Sunday through Friday during the afternoon. It's about a half hour to an hour, depending on how many questions you have once we give you the news. Wednesdays are the days that we normally do our streams associated with rocket launches and space missions and spacecraft and exploration in that way. It's usually brought to us by our own binary blaze, Annie Wilson. The other days are usually Dr. Pamela Gay at Starstrider. She does all of the astrophysical stuff, the cosmological stuff, because she reads papers that make our eyes blur. And so that's it's a team effort. We try and bring you all of the updated news that we can, and try and package it in a way so that it can be understood easily without having to dig into things like graduate level calculus and so forth. Let's see, what am I missing here? I said it is 1 hydrazine main engine and 4 plasma thrusters. The SDPI, thank you. Yes, IS-901 may get rehabbed in graveyard orbit. Graveyard orbit, for those that don't know, is an orbit that is slightly different from the geosynchronous orbit. If you go to any of the satellite following websites that have a graphic display of the Earth and the satellites in orbit around them, either as tiny dots or as star trails or what have you, you'll see a almost solid line around the Earth's equator. That's the geosynchronous belt of satellites. It's just a really convenient place to put things for a lot of reasons. But then you'll also see at about the same distance another ring that is inclined with respect to that. And that's the usual graveyard orbit. When these satellites are done, they're way too far out and have almost no fuel left to try and come back and burn up in the atmosphere. So instead, we push them further out so that they're out of the way of the satellites that are actually still working. Some of those may still be solar powered, may still be alive. You might be able to communicate with them, do science with them. They were never intended for that in most cases. But at the same time, it helps us learn more about how to repurpose hardware, how to use hardware, how to communicate with things remotely. And there have been a number of projects that have repurposed old ComSats for various student science projects. So the comment about 901 getting rehabbed in graveyard orbit is absolutely true. Oh, thanks, you guys. I appreciate the praise. That's awesome. Love that I'm able to do that for you. If there's not any other questions, we are probably going to break here in a few minutes before Annie Wilson gets ready to bring us the next live stream. This one will be for the SpaceX launch of a Falcon 9 that's going to carry the Amos 17, another communications satellite. So that'll be coming up a little bit later. And if there's no other questions, then I think we're going to roll the credits. Do I have a wall of text that I need to read?
This is a production of the Planetary Science Institute working in collaboration with the Weekly Space Hangout crew.
There it is.
And we are supported by you. Your bits, your donations, you're doing science with us over at bennu.cosmoquest.org keeps us going. So thank you, everyone, and
I think that's all for today. Thanks very much. It's been fun, and we'll talk to you next time.